Kia ora. My name's Simon McKillum, and I'm going to be talking about gaze in online presentations. This is the way that I try and improve the engagement of these lectures for students who are viewing it either synchronously or asynchronously. Now, there are lots of problems with online presentations. So lectures are just not engaging. And there are lots of possible pain points. There's the content, the medium, there are accessibility issues, how you keep attention on the medium, and also the motivation to engage and listen. Now, I can't do much about your content. If your content works, great, right? What's the alignment between the presentation style you have and the kind of content you want to teach? For live coding, this can work well. For reading specific technical terms, just give them handouts, put it on web pages. Tutorials might be best for technical skills, but there are types of engagement where this is actually really good. Now, as a lecturer, part of teaching is trying to help students focus on the kinds of things they're supposed to learn. So if we look here, traditionally, as children, we learn by joint attention. When I look at the same place my mother is looking and she makes a name for that object, I bind that word to that object. Even as teenagers, we share attention to focus and to understand what's important to other people. Right? And when I look across at this content, it's giving you a signal that I am paying attention to these images. When I talk to you, I look at you. When I talk about the images, I look at them. Eye contact to you is also an important way of signaling conversations. In a conversation, you'll often make eye contact directly with the person. You'll look away, you'll talk about other things, and you'll look back. I can hand over a conversation by looking at you and stopping talking. And that would be a signal to say, oh, this is now your turn to speak. The problem with online presentations and asynchronous presentations is, when I look at the wall of Zoom black images, none of them know if I'm looking at them. Nobody knows who's supposed to take over the conversation because there's no attention indicators. Here, when I actually say, looking away with intent, looking at someone, even the nature of eye contact we know mediates pupil dilation. And so there are some deep and meaningful messages we send by eye contact and by looking specifically at content. So that's this idea of switching between the person I'm talking to and the content I'm talking about. If I stare too long, if I say too long in either state, so too long looking at you or too much time looking at the content, then that becomes boring and there's not this kind of flow of attention, right? And that too much or too little eye contact is a problem. Also, I am student focused. Now, when we talk about eye contact and communication, often we're trying to find ways to get perfect eye contact, where I look at you and you look at me. In this scenario, I, as the lecturer, am trying to make eye contact with my students. And that means my eyes are looking at them. I do not see you, I see a camera. But that's okay, I'm the lecturer. It's my job to present this material in a way that's engaging to you, not necessarily engaging to me. So I can be student focused and I can manage where I look to engage and keep the lecture flowing. Now, this is the setup I use to do this. As you can see, I have over here a camera that is set up in front of a raised screen. The reason I use the raised screen is to keep my eye line that I'm looking directly at you. I'm not looking down from above or up from below. I have it at my eye height, which places my screen up and above where it would normally be for ergonomic comfort, right? And I have a Rode microphone just here, which, I can bring up and see. You see, there it is. And I have my light to give me a reasonable lighting environment. Now, I also have behind me, this thing behind me is a portable green screen. So I use this, I take it to lectures, I can move it around my office. I have it up on chairs that you can kind of see there to get it high enough to cover me. But that allows me to use OBS to cut out my background and place myself in the right position on screen. Now, the technology I use is an Elgato green screen. I use OBS for the placing myself and doing green screen cutout. I have a Logitech HD 1080p camera, perfectly common camera. I use this Rode condensing microphone, USB-NT, which is great. And I use the cursor highlighting you can see here just to increase the ability for people to see where I am, particularly if I stop and the mouse pointer disappears and I need to have the where was the mouse. But I also can look at the mouse and look around and go, look, I'm looking at the Rode microphone. And you should be able to see that my eyes are pointing in that direction. So in the terms of properties, when you're using the green screen, you've got to turn off the manual color balance. It's really critical to do that to get the green screen working well. You're using chroma keys. I also use the black coloration on the back of the screen to place myself behind the text, but in front of the black of my presentation. Right? So this is a way of cutting myself in between my presentation. So I'm not just kind of overlaying, but I'm kind of part of that presentation. I also use a virtual camera in OBS to stream out to Zoom and to stream to Twitch and Discord at the same time when I'm doing 3 or 4 different streams to make sure that I'm getting to the students in whichever way they need me to. Okay, so this is an example of my OBS setup for this lecture. Here you can see this is me in front of the coding that I'm doing. And by looking at my eyes, you can see where I'm looking, right? You can see where that avatar is looking. They're looking up at that comment up there. And so there's this ray that you can see. That's really important in focusing the student's attention on the content that I am talking about. When I'm talking to you, I look at you. When I'm saying, okay, so we're going to talk about the sort of commenting on failure where there's a system printout, and so I'm going to have an error message, and so that we are looking at the same place. So here I can use my mouse to look at things, but also I can physically point and look, and because I've moved my mouse and made my camera to be where my eyes are, when I look directly across, you see me look across. When I look directly up, you see me look up. I don't have to do additional work to try and rearrange that. Now, from some data now you can see me, I'm completely behind the white of the slide, but that's okay because you can hear me for a bit. This was the engagement for a 100-minute video that I did using this technique, and it's this style, so I'm wearing a different shirt there, and you can see I'm doing some live coding and processing and explaining how we do some parts of the assignment we're working on. And here I've got a 100-minute video with a 74% completion rate, 73.5% completion rate, with 102 unique views out of a class of 160 students. So I'm getting 2/3 of the students to complete this. Now, just to give reference for that, this is the second lecture in the course where there are 75 unique views. So fewer unique views and only a 70% completion. And so this is, the second lecture, and these are all the online viewers for that lecture. And this was a mixed class, so we had some in person and some online. This is an equivalent lecture at about the same time as I gave the online one. This was an in-person lecture with streaming. And it was getting, still 66. So we're down from 75 down to 66. I'm now at a 61% completion rate rather than 69, so decreasing. And then finally at a 51 students at a 50% completion rate near the end of the course. You can see this was given on the 10th, and there was a test on the 25th. So you can see that sudden spike at the end. The drop off at the bottom here was just that the automated recording went longer. But as you can see, this was a relatively consistent drop. But my lecture in the middle here was much higher. It had more engagement through the middle section, higher completion rates, and more engaging. So this technique is able to help Zoom with real time, to help recorded lectures, and to help engage the audience by working with their attention, not against their attention. One of the big problems with Zoom is I become a head on the side somewhere looking in the wrong direction. And if you want to look at the content and read that I'm saying Zoom is not great and that Discord is great for pre-meeting discussions and Twitch has great chat affordances, if I'm looking at those, that is fine here when I've pinned in Zoom. But if I'm a random head looking in the wrong direction, you don't have that sense that we are working together. So this is great for sustaining long engagement. It creates a balance of looking at the student and looking at the content. I can just naturally look about, thinking about the direction of my gaze. I can just do it and I'm getting it right. And I'm working with attention. Okay, so those are the key things that I'm trying to do with this video. I also do some other things where, this is me in an Unreal VR environment where I'm in VR and you can see my head and hands. But again, I show you where I'm looking so that we can share attention within the VR environment for editing. But that's a very specialist gaze version of this kind of gaze where I can look at that image, I'm looking at that image, and you can maintain your focus because I'm working with your natural, instinctual attention. Thank you.